Hi folks. Yes, I know, I go to all this trouble to resurrect the channel and then silence. Unfortunately, life threw quite a number of curveballs at me lately, some of which have been technical and others have been real life, for want of a better way of putting it. There's still a few nails that I've got to hit in the head yet, but I'm getting there. On the technical front, there's been a number of months of ongoing investigation with my internet service provider into my broadband line. There's currently a new ADSL router downstairs that's been up and running now for 3 hours. It'll be quite a few days before I find out whether or not that's solved the problem. I have my doubts, but you have to do what you have to do. There was an internal network failure, and in another video on another channel I pretty much said that a lot of this stuff, these particular failures, are usually down to hardware more than hacking. And it looks like that's the case. It looks like my little 16-port unmanaged switch, 6 years old, finally gave up the ghost. Went AWOL, and it looks like some of the ports are dead, and it only seems to be responding to certain numbers of ports. If I try and put other things in at some points, it just doesn't want to respond. But the thing is unmanaged, so I've got no way of telling what's going on. A replacement is on order. The last technical thing is I've got a Yeti. I'm looking at it now on a boom arm. I've been playing around with it on some Minecraft gameplay videos to get used to it and to see how it works and get the hang of things before I start using it in how-to videos. So I think that's pretty much about it from the technical side. I'm hoping that a few other people will come forward with videos for the channel. I'm not going to mention any names or any subjects because I don't want anybody to feel that that they've committed to anything, because they haven't. What happens on here is what happens. This video itself is to answer a question that came about as a result of another video, which is to explain Power over Ethernet and IP telephony. Big subjects. Now, regarding Power over Ethernet, I will put a link in the hoo-ha bar to the usual wiki page, which will give you all the technical stuff on how it works. When it comes to people of my sort of level, it's another tool in the bag, so to speak. It's got its place. It's not ideal for everything, but at the crux, it's delivering power to devices over the Ethernet cable, rather than requiring a separate plug to go in the wall and power things. It's used for things like Wi-Fi access points. You'll normally see them on the walls and in the ceilings, and the only thing they seem to be connected to is the Ethernet, and that's because that's also how they're getting their power. Also desk phones. You'll find a lot of desk phones that are IP also tend to use Power over Ethernet. Again, typically because it saves a lot of power outlets. A number of the older buildings, when they were built, typically didn't have not only a lack of power sockets, but also a lack of network points. When a lot of places have been kitted out, nobody gave any thoughts or even believed that people could run out of network ports, but it's happened. And this is because a chunk of these phones also act as a mini switch. They allow you to daisy chain a PC on the end of it, so you've got PC, phone, wall socket off to the switch. Now, in the wiki article you'll find out that there's both good and bad points to using Power over Ethernet. You've definitely got to watch for things and be cautious. Typically, one of the things you've got to watch is your load. Your average 48 port power over Ethernet commercial switch will only be drawing something in the region of 350 watts or something like that. And if you have 6-watt phones hanging off the end of all those ports, you're going to be left with pretty much a bit left to run the switch itself, and that's it. If your phones are more than 6 watts, yeah, you're going to have a fun time. Typically, the more fancy the phone, like colour LCD displays and all that jazz, powerful speakers for conferences, yada yada, whatever, the more power they're going to chew. So you've got to be careful when you're deploying power over Ethernet. The other thing that you need to be aware of is things like the switch reservations. A device will typically go up and down with its usage. When it's not actually in use, it'll only draw a certain amount. When somebody picks up a receiver, makes a call, whatever, then the usage goes up. So some edge switches will actually reserve certain amounts of power. And some of them can reserve too much. Like, for example, if you're running a 6-watt phone, the switch can say, okay, I'm going to be safe here and reserve 12 watts. So you've got to be careful. Also, some switches will wind up doing further protection, and if you power cycle the switch, it'll bring up ports in chunks to prevent bringing everything up at the same time, winding up with a massive spike draw that just overloads the switch. Yeah, so you've got to have your wits about you. Also, some switches, because of the 350 watts sort of thing, will have a secondary power supply to provide even more. So if you come across a switch, a network switch which has got 2 power inlets, it may not be redundancy, it may be required for higher drain. So that's the kind of thing that you've got to keep in mind. Assumptions. Always make an arse out of pass. PoE is becoming a lot more common, and it could become more common in the home to drive things like internet cameras, those sorts of things. There are times when you actually want to power a device by a wall wart, a transformer, rather than PoE. You can also get PoE injectors. We use them commercially, but I haven't got one myself. It's like a transformer brick that you get for the usual things. It has the power from the mains and also a LAN connection, and then out comes the LAN connection with power. And there's a bit of negotiation that has to go on, but you can get them. Typically they're used in test environments where, like a test bench, and you're just examining something rather than wanting to hook it up to an edge switch and mess around that way. That, I think, is power over Ethernet at its most basic. For the techniques on which voltage goes down what line, follow the link to the wiki page. Voice over IP. Now you're entering a world of pain. Traditionally, telephone exchanges, commercial enterprise, have been physical pieces of kit on people's infrastructure to make connections. We have to put, analog or digital connections out, which is a separate infrastructure to the networking infrastructure. And that typically then links back to the local telephone exchange, and everything runs on local numbers. Now, if you go to your usual thing like FaceTime, Skype, that sort of thing, you log into a service, and it doesn't matter where that server is, really. you can actually have multiple servers serving the same logon, for example. You can even have telephone exchanges now which are virtual, so you don't even have to worry about physical kit anymore. And that's pretty much what this is. Instead of a traditional telephone system, it is pretty much now software. So effectively you can think of it more like your Skype software, how that runs, and that you're logging in to the server and it's going over IP. And that's pretty much what a chunk of the IP phones do themselves. You tell them where the server is, you tell them log on credentials, and they will then go talk to that server, log on and get their identity. One of the biggest things is you wind up with location independence and a lot more options, because you're not tied to physical PBX kit. You could pretty much be anywhere, so long as you're on the internet and able to talk with your host server. Brilliant. You can also put in dedicated point-to-point lines. Costs a bit, but it's all down to strategy. It changes the risk balance. It changes the whole face of things. With a traditional PBX, you'd be more concerned about somebody digging through the road or a power failure at your exchange. But these days, you've pretty much got independence. There is still licensing to be done, traditionally, whereas you would pay for the channels that you would use between the PBX and the telephone exchange. Now you pay for the SIP trunks that you use, either on a bulk basis or on an as-and-use basis. You know, there's different licensing models for different things, and businesses, certainly in the UK, have to keep their wits about them, because BT has stated about a year or two ago that it wants to kill traditional ISDN connections for businesses by, was it 2025, 2026, and it wants businesses all to be on IP telephony. They're pretty much going to get their way as well, I think, because businesses do have a need to update the telephone exchanges, because, you know, service contracts mean that they've got to be up to certain standards, and there are various business pushes to go over. You can only update certain so far. You can see it from the manufacturer's point of view. This way they don't have to keep manufacturer support parts for physical PBXs. If it's all software driven, any old PC server will do. It does allow you options, because you're not tied to hardware. Once it's all software driven and it's IP, that means you can use data connections, soft phones, software on your mobile phone, and all sorts. So pretty much what's happening is, rather than a physical telephone exchange with separate cabling and different devices, everything is now software driven. You're not tied down to certain types of hardware. Indeed, you're not tied down to location. One of the key things that people are starting to have to wrap their head around is that you can dial, it's like mobile phones. Even if you're in a physical location, you've got to dial the area code, and even if someone's dialing your number on a particular area code, it doesn't mean that you're in a specific building. You could be on the other side of the world. As long as you've got an IP connection, that goes back, you're reachable. Typically though, you have to stick with the software and hardware with each manufacturer, because there will be features on those systems that are unique to that system or behave in a manner for that system, and that's what you're going to have to watch. So it's still quite an investment. Yeah, and risk. The risk base just changes completely. You can now be totally dependent on an internet line which traverses far further than the line between you and your local exchange, which means that if a big exchange gets taken out in between you and your servers, you've had it. But also by the same token, if anything happens, the servers are not tied to talking with phones at your physical location. You can go, if you've got the software on your phone, you can divert and use your mobile phone network if it's on separate cables. There are all sorts of bits and pieces, and it's not always clear cut either. You can go for hybrid solutions, which have, instead of one telephone exchange system, have other smaller telephone exchange systems all over the place at specific sites. Ultimately, the choices come down to your individual business's risk profile and desired functions. There's an awful lot out there. But effectively, if you think of Skype or FaceTime only with more advanced features and the ability to use bespoke hardware, I mean, yeah, on some of the soft phones you can use USB handsets and the rest of that jazz, and you can actually get, I believe, phones which will connect to your Skype account and just be on your desk. And yeah, telephony is a really exciting and concerning and very fast moving place to be right now. Yeah. That's the best that I can explain it, really. I'm not even scratching the surface. Yeah, it certainly comes with a few problems. IP telephony and its lack of location has also been to blame for a few deaths as well, because with hard-based telephony ISDN lines, pretty much you dial the emergency services, they know where you are. And I think there have been cases where families have gone to IP telephony, they've moved house, even in America, moved to different states. And of course they've plugged in the IP telephone and it's worked because it's got an internet connection, but they've then dialed the emergency services and the emergency services have gone to the wrong house because that was the one that was registered. There's a lot of ifs, buts, and yeah. Phreaking has also taken on a new dimension. Telephony services and SIP traffic has also been a specific target, not only of phreakers. Yeah, I suppose phreaking and hacking now can join in this world, but also straightforward, simple DDoS attack. Because you are on the network, you are on a network and going somewhere, unless you are on a completely private line, which would cost a small fortune, then you are open to somewhere along the chain being suffering as a result of a DDoS attack. And if that happens, your corporate telephony could really be hit. It's a pretty wide world out there. There's only so far that I can go without giving specific examples of stuff, and in order to give specific examples of stuff, that would be going too far. I can't do it, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, things are just going all the time. I think one of the interesting ones is what Firefox did with the what do they call it? They've got a conversation, Firefox Hello. That's powered by Telefonica apparently, and you just hit the button, the little smiley face in the cloud, and it generates a link. You hit that link over to the other person by email, whatever, however, and that fires up a web RTC connection. Pretty much web RTC is where things seem to be shifting to, and you then wind up with a point-to-point telephone conversation, well, telephone, video phone, without even having to log on to a central server, I don't believe. Firefox Hello, join the conversation, get started. Click the blue button to start a video conversation, then invite a friend to join. So yeah, it looks, I'm not going to sign in or sign up. Start a conversation, is it going to make me sign up? Email copy or share the link? Ooh. Yes, so far, copy link, email link. It's letting me do this without having to log into anything. I haven't even had to register on the service. It's just doing it. How we communicate, not only with each other on a personal level, but how we communicate with our businesses, with our government services, is all set to change. And rather than narrow down, it's set to widen out. More choices than ever before. And I think there's going to be some incompatibilities, because as some services determine, yes, we're just going to give our customers telephone conversations, one-to-one contact center staff. Others will determine, no, we're going to work off email in case things, or live chat, and there's just going to be a mishmash. I don't think that we'll ever get to the point on the commercial basis where you ring up a supplier and you wind up with a video talk with the supplier. I think that would probably be a degree of familiarity that people would find a degree too far for a business related transaction towards business consumer. Oh yeah, I've just had some RTC controls pop up for webcam and microphone. Ooh. Yeah. So, you can think of IP telephony as sort of Skype or FaceTime, but more formal, linked to the public service telephone network, therefore able to respond to telephone numbers, still costing, and having a lot more functionality behind them, the kind of functionality that a corporate will use. I think that's about as far as I can go on the general side of it, so if you've got more specific questions, let me know, but I may not be able to answer them because of my position. Who knows? Catch you later. Bye for now.